Hi there everyone, I'm Frank from Home Buy Me, a platform that enables the next generation home buying experience, purchasing real estate yourself without a buyer's agent and saving tens of thousands of dollars on real estate commissions. Over the last year, there have been some major changes in the real estate industry that present a real opportunity. This is the first in a series of videos that will explain those changes and how home buyers can benefit from them. Here's what you're going to learn in the next few minutes. How the settlement of a class action lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors has driven sweeping changes across the industry. What has changed about buying a home and how to use it to your advantage. We'll walk through a real example where the buyer of $1 million home saves $30,000 in commission, and we'll share a pro tip about buyer agency agreements, a new spin in the real estate world, and one you should understand to know your options. In August of 2024, there was a settlement of a class action lawsuit with the National Association of Realtors. The suit was brought about by buyers and sellers who alleged that commissions around real estate purchases were anti-competitive. To understand impact, I'd like to walk through how commissions worked in a typical transaction prior to the settlement. Now, if I was selling my home, I'd call up my local real estate agent. In exchange for listing my home, a realtor would charge a percentage of the transaction, or a real estate commission. In order to make the property more attractive, the listing agent would offer a portion of that commission to the buyer's agent when the transaction closed. Now, in a typical sale, the total commission hovers around 6%, with 3% retained by the listing agent and then 3% paid to the buyer's agent. Now, the model really hasn't evolved much in the last 100 years, and there are two main problems with this approach. Even though real estate agents would say their commission is negotiable, it didn't always feel that way in practice. In a world where anyone can find real estate listings online, and where prospective buyer has ready access to critical information like days on market, neighborhood or school rankings, and even comparable recent sales, the traditional buyer's agent commission can sometimes feel out of line. So what has changed since the settlement of the class action lawsuit? First, the seller is no longer responsible to pay the buyer's agent in the form of commission, which was often specified in the listing data. The rules now stipulate that in most states, you can't even publish commission in the multiple listing service database. This change is huge, as buyers traditionally didn't have to think about commission, as it was all taken care of by the seller. Second, if a buyer chooses to work with an agent, they have to sign a buyer's agency agreement that details the commission the agent is to be paid before they look at property. Now, if the seller isn't offering a buyer's agent commission, then the buyer could be responsible for paying their agent's commission out of pocket. And these are changes you're really going to feel. The requirement to sign with an agent at the outset and ensuring that the buyer agent is paid if the seller isn't willing to do so. Great job following along, my friends, because we are now at the most exciting and meaningful change for home buyers, which is the option to buy it yourself and not pay any commission as the home buyer. Welcome to what we call the buy it yourself, or BIY era of home buying, where you use Home Buy Me to help you create as well as submit your offer and complete the purchase yourself. To demonstrate our point, let's look at a real estate transaction and the commission charged to both sides so we can really understand what we're talking about here. To keep the math simple, let's use round numbers at a purchase price of $1 million. Before the rules changed, sellers were charged 6% on that $1 million purchase price, or $60,000. From that 60, 30 went to the seller's agent and 30 to the buyer's agent. Traditionally, the seller paid the entire commission out of the proceeds of the transaction. And there are a few important takeaways that I want to talk about here. Because the buyer's agent receives commission, the seller received less from the proceeds of the sale. It also means that if the buyer financed the purchase of the home, the commission was also financed. And if you think about it, at today's interest rates, that really adds up over the life of the loan. Under the new rules, the commission on the sell side may look very similar, a 3% commission to the listing agent. But on the buy side, the buyer can either negotiate a lower commission with an agent or eliminate the commission entirely by doing it themselves. Some buyers also consider working with the seller's agent as a way of realizing some savings, but remember that a seller's agent really represents the seller. What would you do with an extra $30,000 at the time of a home purchase? That amount of money gives you some great options. You can make your offer more attractive to the seller. You could buy down the interest rate on your mortgage, or you could renovate that bathroom. The main point we're trying to make here is that now that you have control of the transaction, you have some real options. Okay, just a quick recap on what we went over today. We explained how the settlement of a class action lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors is driving major changes across the real estate industry nationwide. We also talked about how these changes impact buying a home and how to use them to your advantage. We used a simple example where the buyer of $1 million home saves $30,000 in commission. And lastly, we discussed holding off on signing a buyer's agency agreement until you determine what approach is best for you. This is a really exciting time for buyers and sellers of real estate. Our goal is to guide you in making the best decision when buying your first, next, or last home. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and like and especially subscribe, because we have more content coming that's going to teach you how to DIY or buy it yourself.